in the foreword, I say this is not an album of joy or anything uplifting. How I wish I did have that to write about.
I know that thematically, this record deals with some pretty heavy emotional
Mhm.
um
So my father's ill, and my nan passed of the same thing. So yeah, it's so they're both going through went through the same thing, but my nan recently passed from it. But with my nan, because of her age, things her process happened pretty quick, and as bad as it sounds, like um the fact that like it didn't last too long for her, like the whole kind of dementia sort of side of things. Thankfully, because it's not a great way. It's a shit way to such a shit way to finish your life. So that was what a lot of this is all to deal with, and it's me just trying to figure it out myself, figure it out what in the starting point, which is the track one, is based on the first day. Then there's kind of like you know the the heaviness is put on my family, like that's what the burden is, and a feast on sorrow, the song, that's almost from a different side of things. How does someone live out their life in like quite a pretty straightforward honest living and raised a family, and then actually instead of just living out your final years, 20 years or whatnot, what have you, um you're just going to get picked, and it's going to be shortened, and it's going to be miserable, and it's going to be stressful, and it's going to be difficult not only for you to deal with, but those around you. So yeah, there's each kind of track is to deal with something to do with it. So it's me just kind of writing and trying to figure out what is happening, what is going to happen, um, and what the end result is.
because I totally sympathize, man.
Mhm.
Laura, my wife, has had two grandparents of hers have Alzheimer's, and my granddad had
Mm.
Alzheimer's as well. And
Mm.
it similarly, as you say, it's awful to say that it was good that it was quick, but it's just
Yeah.
the kindest thing that you could afford with that kind of disease. It's awful, but I was reading through the lyrics, and that's the reason I kind of talk about my experience with it, is because like you just nail it. Like you really do, that sort of level of I think in particular the sort of feature length track, I've forgotten what the name of it is now, the 11-minute one.
I'd,
um
a stumble of words,
that's it.
or bloody hell, it's gone. It's got me. I've got the other long songs called The Long Goodbye is the other long one.
The first line is also the final line as well, where
Mhm.
do the memories
Mhm.
and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that the way we kind of bookend it, the start of it done in an aggressive way, because that's the first thing you feel is a bit of an anger. What like where's this come from? And the end part is, me kind of thinking ahead of time. And it is that it's done in a more of a, it's just, as you know, it's slower and it's sadder, and it's almost spoken. And it's a way to bookend it, but the emotions are completely different. Um, the opening track, The Flood Came Rushing In. So when we got told, like, it was a complete surprise. It was like, oh, let's kind of come around to mine and have lunch. And my sister was here. And it just got said. But I remember just looking at the table, and I've still got the same table, and as weird as it is. And I remember just staring, and I couldn't lift my head up. And all I could see was tears hitting the table for my sister. And it just building up into a little, like a kind of a mound of water. And that, for me, the tears were the flood, and that's why that's called. And the flood came rushing in, and like the opening line, the day you sat down upon the withered throne, it's seeing a man sit upon his chair, and that thing around him, that guy you kind of grew up sort of idolizing, and your mates used to think he's the funniest guy and everything, and now it's going to be a withering mess, like. and yeah, the chorus is like, and just when you felt alive, the flood came rushing in, and it was just because we'd moved out of London. Each we moved down to the same sort of area, but not, all in kind of like different 5 minutes apart from each other,
Yeah.
to kind of live out this kind of lovely life. My sister moved down with her family, and my nan came down. So we all, we haven't got a big family, but we're all quite close. And that's it. Just when you felt alive, the flood came rushing in to drown us all. And a
Wow.
stumble of words, because you mentioned that, is the moments when you're talking to someone and you think they're absolutely fine, but they're probably chatting a bit of shit. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden it's gone. That's gone. There's a blank. And it's like there's a stress. It's lost. That moment there's just been taken and it's gone. Where has it gone? How has that gone? Like I don't get that someone was about to create a sentence or something and it's just a switch and it's not there anymore. The thought of that moment and that memory going out to somewhere, and then the rest of the song follows kind of what happens to them moments. Where did they end up? Um,
All right.
and it is, yeah, just like wisdom lashing out of flesh, peel back the layers. It's almost like revealing the complete innocence behind that person. They now be kind of, sadly, it's horrible it sounds, is the person who like brought you up from a child is almost reverting back into a childlike state, and now you're seeing an innocence from them which you probably hadn't seen really before. Um, so yeah, that's kind of a little insight to a stumble of words.
Wow. It's like black and white. And that's why I kind of really latched onto the album artwork as well, because it's so kind of unforgiving in that sort of respect. You know what I mean? There's no hues. It's
Yeah,
just
I felt like looking at it, and I think the picture is taken about 4 miles down from where we live. I mean, you probably know there's so many metal artworks now where they've just gone and got someone to do it. It doesn't mean anything. And for me, the thought of, like, say, moving down to live like a new life down by the coast because I love the ocean and everything, and the power that the ocean holds, as much as it's beautiful, is terrifying. And I've said this a few times. Prime example. Look at that thing with the Titanic the other week. Just the thought of
yeah.
disintegrated, and that there's so much, beauty and so much power within the ocean. And I was really struggling to get the right artwork for it. And we actually went down the route of speaking to an illustrator, and I had something in mind, which we've actually used for the Burden video, like the hourglass, and it was going to be based around that. I did speak to someone, a friend, just to do a mock up, and I forgot it was called an hourglass, and I was like, "Can you draw an egg timer?" And he's like, "A fucking egg timer?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah, mate." And he was just like, "Right." And I forgot that the egg timer's the like all grandparents used to have an egg timer.
Yeah.
And he was like, after a couple of emails, he's like, "Oh, mate, I don't want to be like a dick, but do you mean an hourglass?" And I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely." But yeah, we were trying with and I had that artwork I had saved for the next album,
Ah,
and I've already got in mind the next one actually, so which I think looks sick. But yeah, I was like, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I sent the image and the article to our manager, and there was two images. There was that one and another one. This image is called Behemoth, by the way. That is the name of the actual the art. Um, and I sent it to our manager, and he went, "Yeah, straight away. Let's just save them from the website and just get Angus to do a mock logo in a thing, just so we can look at it for a few days before we reach out." And I was just like, "This is it. Like, it doesn't need anything else, and it's cold.
yeah.
There's no colors on it." I was like, "It suits the vibe of the album." I was like, "It has to be." So we reached out, and Rachel's her name, and I don't think she's ever had any musicians reach out and ask her about using a piece. And I sent her an email as to why I wanted to use it and what it meant to me, and she was she was absolutely on board with it, and a bit over the moon with it, really, I think. And yeah, once we got that confirmed, I was just like, I can't wait to look at that. And if I was walking through a record shop, I know you collect a lot, and I saw that in the metal section, I'd want to know what was inside of that.
Hmm.
I'd look at the album title. I think the album title, and I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, but I think A Feast on Sorrow feels big. It feels important.
Yeah.
And I would want to know what is inside of this. And if you when you get it, like if you open it up, we our manager was like, I think you should do a foreword. Like, you get books, there's like a little thing. So when you open up the vinyl or the CD booklet, there's a foreword message from me to what the album means. And I was like, oh, God, I was really struggling. So I went down to the pub and had a beer, and I just sat there with a computer and I just wrote this piece out. And our manager was just like, they get it, they read it, and they prepare themselves for what's about to happen. And I think it was a great idea.
But it's even in the choice of like the word, like feasting is like, it's like gorging on it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't really care
Yeah,
what that is sort of feeling. You're just like
yeah,
more of it. And,
yeah.
it's,
And that's what this whole album is. It's just sad. It's not. It's like, and that is what I put in the foreword. I say this is not an album of joy or anything uplifting. How I wish I did have that to write about. And it is, yeah, you're right. And there's so much sorrow on it. And yeah, when you say feast, it's not like, if I went eating on sorrow wouldn't work, but feast, it feels like, I don't know, it just feels very rich as well. And
yeah,
yeah, and I just, as soon as I put it down for the song title, which for me is the most wicked track on the album, it's very evil.
yeah.
I was like, that's a great title. And I thought Serpent and Spirit was a cool album title, but then I found out Desolated had an album called The Spirit and the Serpent, and I was like, oh God, fuck. I would have hated to have the same sort of title with someone. But yeah, then A Feast on Sorrow, I was like, it's perfect.